everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. Happy to be with you on this Sunday, the final Sunday of this calendar year without any real football to talk about, as the Seahawks will begin training camp this Wednesday. I will be there at the VMAC bright and early, getting ready, doing player interviews, watching practice, and I will be giving you all the news, all the practice reports, all the insights, and everything I see that I think you'll want to know coming up starting this week. And it's going to be pretty much 6 days a week from this Wednesday until season starts of a lot of Seahawks coverage. So if you haven't already liked and subscribed to the channel, now is a great time to do it. Make sure you click the bell to get notified when we will be going live, because just like today, this Sunday, it's going to be a little bit unpredictable when that will happen. Great to see Jacob Moon, Amy Holmes, Brian Cole already in chat. Good morning and welcome to everybody. We're going to cover today, probably be a little bit shorter show than normal. We're going to cover a little bit about a topic that Jeff Simmons and I have discussed many, many times before, but I wanted to revise as we kind of head into this season. And it's going to look at which of the Seahawks players have the potential to rise or ascend to being a blue chip player this year. And I've got 4 different tiers of Seahawks players that I've kind of put into buckets or tiers of who is most likely and who has the potential to do that. And I'm not going to go through all 53 guys in the roster because I don't think, or all 90 as the case may be. I'm going through guys that I believe already have either demonstrated some blue chip potential or that I am projecting to have that potential. So it's going to be a relatively short list. I think I've got about 15 guys on this list. So we'll talk about that. I will talk about how I kind of came up with these tiers and what the criteria was. Pretty informal, but I'm looking forward to the debate and the discussion with you guys and with others on this, because the reality is great teams are usually defined by how many blue chip players they have. And we should start by defining what a blue chip player is. A blue chip player is the best of the best. They're all pro would be a way to think about a blue chip. That's a shorthand for blue chip. You don't have to be an all pro to be a blue chip player, but you have to be one of the 5 to 7 best at your position in the NFL, not just in your division, not just in your conference, across the league. You have to be a player that other teams every week do not know how they're going to stop you or account for you or deal with you, and that their game plans start with you. And the Seahawks have had numerous blue chip players over their years. The Seahawks in the Pete Carroll era, the Legion of Boom, was littered with blue chip players. Earl Thomas, blue chipper. Richard Sherman, blue chipper. Cam Chancellor, blue chipper. Bobby Wagner. All of those guys, blue chip players. Was Doug Baldwin a blue chip player? I didn't have him as a blue chip player. I think he had the potential to be. I think there's a lot of reasons that didn't necessarily happen, but I don't know that he reached that level. Was Russell Wilson a blue chip player? That is a very fun debate that I will save for another time. There were periods of time I think he was. I would not call Russell Wilson. I don't know that Russell Wilson was ever one of the best 5 quarterbacks in the game when he was playing. That's going to be a fun one that I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree with. But Walter Jones, years past, blue chip player. So these are the guys that absolutely can lift an overall team. And so I want to kind of talk through some guys that I've got some feelings about that may or may not align with yours. So we'll do that. Before we get to that, I also wanted to cover a little bit of NFC West news. As I was out with some friends and family yesterday down in Portland, having a really nice time. Really enjoyed my time in Portland. But what caught my eye yesterday was the 49ers PUP, the physically unable to perform list. And one of the things that was particularly interesting in that list was that We knew Brandon Ayuk was going to be on that list. That was not a surprise. But we did not know Ricky Pearsall was going to be on that list. And that's a pretty big deal because Brandon Ayuk very likely will stay on the PUP list to start the season. He will likely not be there for the first game of the season against the Seahawks. I've already told you about Demarcus Robinson, their free agent receiver, who is likely to be suspended and likely will also not be available for that game. You've got Juwan Jennings, who is holding out, wanting either a new contract or to be traded. I think he'll be there, is my best guess, because they really picked the right time to do this holdout because the 49ers are in a rough way with the receiver room. But now Ricky Pearsall, who had a hamstring injury, and this was something that has plagued Ricky Pearsall through college and now into the pros. He had hamstring before he had the terrible shooting incident last year. He was already having hamstring issues, and this was something that was part of the scouting report on him coming out of school. June 10th, that's over a month ago, well over a month ago, before they broke for kind of summer break as an NFL team. Kyle Shanahan said, Ricky had a hamstring. It's nothing serious. He's pretty good now. We're just being safe. He'll be all good by training camp. Starting training camp on PUP does not mean he's all good. So something to monitor, not like things that are the end of the world or not, but that's going to be something to keep an eye on. And that 49er receiver room continues to be one of the storylines for me that is not getting enough attention. So we have not yet heard about Alaric Jackson for the Rams. And I'm really curious if he is going to start on PUP or not. My assumption is that he is going to, but that's another key figure in the NFC West that I think most people are not informed enough about what's going on there. If you look at like Polymarket, which is a betting prediction market out there right now, you can see who's likely to win the NFC West. Right now, the 49ers still are the favorite to win the NFC West. The Rams have been closing in. They're pretty close. I think they're up in like the 38 to 39% chance, those guys, of winning the division. The Seahawks and Cardinals are down there at like 16%, like well below. And I think this division's a lot closer than the general betting market believes it is, but we'll see. We will see. So that's the quick bit there. There's probably some other stuff I'm forgetting, but those are the ones that jumped out to me. If you didn't know, Malik Mustafa, who tore his ACL, he is also on the PUP list for the 49ers. Something else that caught my eye was Ben Bartch, who they had tabbed to be their starter after letting Aaron Banks, their starting left guard, go to Green Bay. Ben Bartch is starting the camp on the non-football injury list. So maybe that's a minor thing. We saw guys pass a physical, come off the NFI list within a couple of days with the Seahawks. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's not. But those are just a couple things that caught my attention before we get into the meat of the show. So let's do it. Let's talk about blue chip players. And what I want to start with is, who are the guys that I kind of took out of these lists because I think that they are close enough to being a blue chip player that it's just not really worth spending the time on. There's only two. There are two players that on the Seahawks that I would put in that category. One of them is Leonard Williams, who last year, if you want to know what a blue chip player looks like, you watch Leonard Williams over the last part of last season, where he was essentially a defensive player of the year level player for Seattle for a sustained period of time. That's what a blue chip player looks like. I don't have him on my list of potential blue chippers because I think he enters this year already kind of in that category. Now, he's an older guy. Whether or not he's going to sustain it, we'll see. but I didn't consider him for this list because I'm looking for guys that haven't yet really reached that level that could this year and are at least on my watch list for blue chip. The other guy that I pulled off this list is Devin Witherspoon. Devin Witherspoon is one of the only Seahawks in history to have made the Pro Bowl his first 2 seasons out of the NFL. I think I heard somewhere else he was one of the only Dick Butkus is the only other University of Illinois grad that made it his first 2 years as a Pro Bowler. And Devin Witherspoon, I would say you could be on this list because I don't know that he has sustained the type of impact that a blue chip player has. And I don't know that at this point he is really a top 5 player at his position, let's say. But I just think it's less interesting to have the conversation about Devin Witherspoon because all the pieces are there and he's essentially reached, I think, pretty close to what I would consider that level. But I've got some names that are going to surprise you on this list, and you're going to look at me and you're going to have like a raise an eyebrow. Like, what are you talking about, Brian? Why would we talk about this guy as a blue chip player? That seems odd. And let's start with the tiers that I came up with, and they're imperfect. I honestly, as I was doing it, I was like, I don't love exactly the way this came out tier-wise, but it fits, I think, reasonably well. So I've got 4 tiers. And the first tier is this person has proven that they have blue chip capability. So it's not a projection. I'm not guessing. They have already done it. But they will have to have sustained that level of play over the course of multiple games. It doesn't have to be consecutive games, but we have seen multiple games where they took over or they were a dominant part of that game and that performance. The other aspect of this of being tier 1 is all of the players in any of these tiers has not yet reached blue chip status. That's obviously a criteria. So what are the obstacles that are keeping them from getting there? And for tier 1, I wanted guys that I am confident that I would say that the obstacles in the way of them becoming a blue chip player are certain to be mitigated. Like it's certain that they can overcome those obstacles. That's to be tier 1. So already proven that they can play at blue chip level, already have sustained it for multiple games, and they had the obstacles that have kept them from being a blue chip player are things that can definitely be overcome. So I have got 4 guys on that list for the Seahawks. Let's go over who's in tier 1, and then I will get to tier 2 and explain that. Okay. So the first guy, and even before I name anybody, I'd love to hear who you'd put in that list as you go through it. So the first guy I'm going to start controversially. The first guy I'd put on that list is Reek Woolen. Reek Woolen to me is a player that as a rookie was just behind Sauce Gardner as a defensive rookie of the year, was one of the best corners in football when he was playing. And over his 3 seasons that he has played, has had multiple games where he has been a dominant force. Now, people might quibble with that. That's how I see it. He has been one of the best cover corners in football over that period of time collectively, and that includes some games where he was really not very good, but there's other games that have been exceptionally good. The Broncos game last year, opening game, he was fantastic in that game. Made some really big plays. He also, part of the reason I have him in this tier 1 is he has demonstrated making an impact that a blue chip player can make. And he's also demonstrated things that there's very few people on the planet capable of doing. He's that kind of athlete. He's that kind of player. So for me, he is absolutely has blue chip potential. I don't question that. He has absolutely had games where he is in at that level. And the obstacles, let's talk about the obstacles a second for Riq Woolen. It used to be, okay, run defense was a thing for him, and people were exploiting it. He wasn't able to hold up in run defense. That's an old story. He was a really good run defender last year, whether you look at Field Vision Pro and their evaluation of run defending corners, he was among the best. Whether you look at Pro Football Focus, whether you look at tackle rate, like there's all sorts of metrics you can look at. Riq Woolen was a very good run defending corner last year. That's not the issue as much anymore. The issue for him has been things like attention to detail, focus, especially in zone coverage, where you're not just playing the man in front of you and mirroring them, but actually reading the offense, understanding when to break on the ball, and staying locked in. This is something Mike McDonald's talked about with him, about him, and to him. And I have no doubt that that's something that can be overcome. Will it? I don't know. But here's the other thing with Riq Woolen that has him on this list for me is you can be the biggest Riq Woolen hater or doubter out there. You also know that he can put up 7 picks in a season. He can. Like, he's already done it. The chances that he could end up with a season where he has multiple picks for a return for a touchdown, that he is a massive impact player, there's just no doubt that he can be that. And if you've been following him on Instagram this offseason, his whole offseason has been working out, working on his game, and doing camps for kids, like football camps. That's basically been his summer and his offseason. So I'm curious. I'm not saying he's going to be a blue chip player, but he's in the top tier for me of guys that it's right there for them. Riq Woolen could absolutely ascend to that status this year if he goes out and has, a 7+ pick season and is a guy that teams stop throwing his direction. I think we've already seen that. I think it can happen again. So I know a lot of people, he's a controversial figure, but for me, he's on that list. And again, this is not saying that these people are going to become blue chip players. These are just tiers of how close they are to really reaching that status, how much distance they would have to cover in order to reach that status. The next player on that list, probably, I think every player on this list, other than maybe one, is probably going to be a little controversial. The next player on that list for me is Jackson Smith-Njigba. And there's many people on here say, well, he's already a blue chip player. And I see the conversation in chat going on about Portland, which I love. And I was just there. Let's keep the conversation to football if we can, folks. Too much stuff outside of reality enters those conversations and it goes sideways. So let's focus on football. So Jackson Smith-Njigba was a very good player last year. He is one of the top probably 15 to 20 receivers in football by almost any measure. There are going to be questions about whether or not he can be a number 1 level receiver where without someone else who is really drawing tons of coverage, can he be a superstar? I've already seen evidence of that. When DK Metcalf was out last year, Jackson Smith-Njigba had some of his best games. He had like 180 yards in one of his games with DK out. Like he's already shown that I don't think he's dependent on someone else drawing coverage. But he has not done that for a sustained period of time, or haven't had to do it for a sustained period of time for us to know whether he truly is, a true number 1 that teams have to account for every single game, and they don't know how to stop him, even if it's just stopping him. So I think he's close to that. I think the questions for me with Jackson Smith and Jigba are not just how does he survive when he is the number one area of focus for a defense, but can he be a big enough impact player from a scoring perspective, creating touchdowns? Uh, can he be a big enough impact player in terms of actually lifting up other players? Can he draw enough coverage that maybe a Torrey Horton is able to step forward in a way that he might not if he was getting blanketed with, just standard coverages? We have to see that from JSN. And I think it'd be really unwise to bet against him. The other part of this is, can he do it outside and in? I think he can, but he's going to be asked almost certainly to play more outside. I think we're going to see more Z receiver kind of flanker routes from him and positioning than we've seen in the past, and not just be an 80% slot guy like he has been. And I think that's going to be another aspect of kind of determining whether he can be this level of player. But it's really, is he a guy that can put up 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns when he is the number one focus of a defense from a coverage perspective? Now, I don't know if this offense is going to pass the ball enough to have that kind of volume anyway, but JSN's a guy that is just scratching at the bottom of that level, or the top of the red chip level, and just scratching the underbelly of the blue chip level. So he's another guy that's on that list for me, tier 1. Third guy on that list, Kenneth Walker. Now, I feel like at this point I'm alone on this. I know that I'm not, but that's how it feels. You bring up Kenneth Walker, the first thing people say is he's injured all the time. He never plays. The second thing they say is, I don't think he's that good. Third thing they say is, I think Zach Charbonnet is better. Whatever. These are the tropes. These are what I hear all the time. And I'm not even saying that they're all wrong, but that's not the point of this discussion. The point here is who meets the criteria for tier 1. Does he have certain blue chip capability? He 100% does. He is one of the most elite special athletes on this roster. I mean, the things I have already seen him do on a football field that I've never seen other players do, it makes him special. He has already had games where he has been absolutely dominant. I think that it's been a couple of years, partially because he's getting contacted behind the line of scrimmage more than almost any back in the league. This happened to him and Zach last year. So I'm not sure he's had the opportunity to do that, to really be at a blue chip level. And that gets to the obstacles. I think the obstacles that have kept Ken Walker from being a blue chip player, health is one of them. The offensive line in front of him is another. The play caller is a third. And those are the dominant three that I would say. And then a fourth would be his willingness to run within the scheme of an offense. The reason I don't think that's quite the same level is because I'm just not sure there's been a good enough scheme with a good enough line and a good enough play caller that's calling run plays often enough to fairly evaluate him in that way. And so we'll see. But if you were to ask me, the one guy from this tier 1 list that I think is most likely to ascend all the way to be a blue chip player for his position this year, it's Kenneth Walker. That's my guy. And that doesn't mean I'm down on Zach Charbonnet. It doesn't mean that I think the offensive line is going to be good enough for him to be his best. I think that the play calling is going to be run heavy enough for him to get the opportunities. I think the scheme is going to fit what he does in terms of outside zone and just hitting the hole and just exploding through it and getting to the edge. think there's a lot of reasons that for me, I think we're going to see the home run hitting Kenneth Walker come back this year. And it would not surprise me if he is in the conversation for best running backs in football by the end of the year. So he's my most likely to hit. Even though he's not the closest to being there, I think if you're talking probability, he'd be the one that I'd say is most probable. The last guy, the fourth guy I have in tier 1, is Charles Cross. Charles Cross is a guy that took a huge step forward last year at left tackle, and he is not a blue chip level left tackle. He still, I think, gives up too much pressure and certainly has some work to do overall. But he demonstrated that he is in the top half of the league in tackles last year, and that I think this scheme is going to be something that fits him really well. There's a chance that he ascends into a dominant left tackle. There were games last year where he was a blue chip left tackle. There were also games where he just wasn't. And so the biggest obstacle to me with Charles Cross is going to be consistency. And I'm certain that that's something that can be overcome. I think it's also going to be a little bit about coaching. And I think that how he is utilized and how he's told to utilize the skills that he's got. And I think he's in the best position he's been in to receive that coaching and to apply it. So he's the last guy I've got in the tier 1 list. So again, Reek Woolen, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Kenneth Walker, and Charles Cross are my tier 1 potential blue chip guys for the Seahawks that could jump to that level this year. Now, tier 2, as we get to that, I've also got 4 guys in tier 2. Tier 2 also is very clearly have blue chip talent. Like they've shown it already. They've flashed it on the field. But what's different between tier 1 and tier 2 is that tier 1, they've done this for multiple games and sustained it, and they've got obstacles that have kept them from truly reaching it that we know can be overcome. Tier 2, not necessarily sure on one or the other. Maybe we're sure that the obstacles can be overcome, but they haven't really sustained blue chip play for enough games to say that that's a criteria they meet. Or they've sustained it for multiple games, but they've got an obstacle that you're just not quite sure is going to be something they can get past. So let's start on this list. Tier 2. Derek Hall. Derek Hall for me is in the tier 2 list of potential blue chip guys because with Derek Hall, I see a guy, he has already done things on the football field that are dominant, blue chip level attributes that he has demonstrated. The sack he had against Jared Goff in Detroit, that is a blue chip play right there. The plays that he has where his speed to power just comes, you just see him drive guys back into the backfield. He's got the skill set to get there. And for what it's worth, I didn't see that coming out of college. This was a surprise to me that he has got this potential. So I think he has shown those flashes. The thing with Derek Hall is I don't think that he has sustained it for full games. I don't think he has taken over games. I think he has had blue chip plays, flashes within games. I think he's had some really good games, but I don't know that he's yet had a game where the offense is like, man, we have got to account for this guy every snap. That's not yet where Derek Hall is. And so in this particular definition, I'm saying that the obstacles to overcome for Derek Hall are just consistency. So I think that that's something he can overcome. I think he also has to work on his run defense a little bit more. But it would be great if he had a counter to his power rush. But these are all things I'm pretty confident can be overcome. The thing that keeps him out of tier 1 is he just hasn't really had full games where he was one of the best players on the field. Like, that just hasn't happened as much, even though he's had blue chip flashes. His battery mate, Boye Mafe, is also on this list. So Boye Mafe is a guy that he kind of radiates red chip. Like, he seems like a guy that is going to be good, maybe Pro Bowl level, but never the best at his position. Like, I don't know that he has yet demonstrated that he can be a blue chip player. And so that's part of why for me, he has absolutely shown blue chip, like a very similar diagnosis between him and Derek Hall. Has had flashes that meet the criteria, but is not yet sustained it for a long enough period of time for me to consider him a tier 1. And the thing with Boye Mafe is he has, I think, done it more than Derek Hall. He has sustained those levels long. Like, there was a time, not last year, but 2 years ago, where he had a sack in maybe like 7 straight games or something like that. And we started to see teams actually chip him, leave more protection in to help block against him. So he's done even more than I think Derek Hall has. But I think the plays that I've seen from Derek Hall are more elite, more dominant than the plays I've seen from Boye Mafe. And so for Boye, it's kind of an interesting one where I'm not sure the obstacles can be overcome. I don't know if he's got the right combination of skills to sustain blue chip level play for multiple games. So that for me is why he's in this tier. A little bit of a different reason than Derek Hall. Like, I think Derek Hall clearly has already shown those pieces, and but I don't think it's been very consistent with it. Boye has been more consistent with very good play, but has shown fewer dominant traits in doing it. And so that's why they're in the same tier, but they've got different issues to kind of demonstrate that they can get to that next level. The next guy on this list is Byron Murphy. And he was a tough guy to place in these tiers because Byron Murphy is somebody who I feel like has shown some already as a rookie, really, really rare athletic ability. His strength, his speed, his agility, his power. He's done things that are really, really rare. Also is not very productive. He has not dominated a game. So I mean, I could put him in tier 3. I could put him in a lower tier, to be honest. I could probably make that case for Boye Mafe as well. It's potentially be a tier lower, but I've got Byron Murphy here because I think I would be the least surprised of anyone in this tier of reaching blue chip level than Byron Murphy. Like, I think the main thing that he needs to be different is he needs to get more snaps at 3-tech, and he needs to get more snaps on 3rd down where he gets a chance to go after the passer, where he gets unleashed against the run to be more disruptive and less about holding the point of attack. Those are things that Byron Murphy needs. So he needs opportunity, and he's going to get that this year. So part of me is like, he's a tier 1, but he just hasn't demonstrated it enough, partially because I think he just hasn't gotten the opportunity. So I think from a probability perspective, he honestly might be second on this overall list of players for hitting that blue chip status, because if it really is just an opportunity issue with Byron Murphy, he's going to get those opportunities this year, and he could very well jump up into that status of guys where every single week opponents are trying to figure out what to do with him. Now, the last person on this list, you are going to, I know there's going to be some funny reactions to this. Last person on this list is Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, starting quarterback, tier 2. Now you might say, like, what is Sam Darnold doing on this list? Like, he already just got $100 million deal, and he won 14 games last year, and he threw 35 touchdowns, and on and on. Well, there is 0 people in the league that would classify Sam Darnold as a blue chip player. He's not there. There aren't many people that would even have him in the top half of the league in terms of starting quarterbacks. But he matches the criteria when I look at this of, am I confident that he has blue chip capability? Well, he's certainly demonstrated, like, some of the throws he has made, some of the production that he has had. This is not hyperbole. He was an MVP candidate last year. Partly, you go back, you look at the odds. He was a guy that was gaining steam for MVP votes last year. That's blue chip. Like, no matter what you think the reasons are for that to happen, for him to be at that level means that he has demonstrated that he has that capability. Now, the other part of tier 2 is like, what are the obstacles? Well, judgment, accuracy. Those are pretty big things. Judgment being how long you hold onto the football. Judgment being, is this the right throw to make? Should I make this, or should I throw it away? Should I throw it to somebody else? Those are things that Sam Darnold has not demonstrated he can do on a regular basis, is have good judgment, make good decisions. And I think we've also seen some accuracy issues. Like, there's times where he's just not precise with where he's putting the football. So I don't know how likely I would say that Sam Darnold is to leave the season as a blue chip player, but here would be my most optimistic take on that. If Sam Darnold does what he did last year, this year, what are people going to say? What are the detractors going to say? Oh, well, he had a great coordinator and a great supporting. No one can possibly say that. Going into this year, the story is going to be, oh, the Seahawks have a terrible offensive line. They have a mediocre offensive coordinator. They have below average weapons. So if Sam Darnold goes out and actually puts up 30 touchdowns and, 10 interceptions or something like that, he'll be in this conversation as he'll be at that point a 28-year-old quarterback who will have put together back-to-back seasons that are among the most productive in the game. And he will have done it for different teams, different schemes, different supporting cast, different coaches. If he does that, he's going to absolutely be in this conversation. So I'm not saying it's likely, but as far as proximity to that, he checks a few boxes. So let's keep going. We'll get into tier 3. And tier 3 goes down a little bit more. While I've said in the first 2 tiers that there's clarity around having a blue chip level talent, tier 3 allows for a player to maybe, it seems pretty clear that they have blue chip talent, but it's not necessarily proven. This is someone who's flashed it in the game, not sustained it for multiple games, as we talked about before, and may have some clear obstacles that maybe aren't likely for them to overcome, but are possible. So the first person on this list for me in tier 3 is Abe Lucas. And Abe is a guy that, by the way, it was great to talk to him on Friday. Make sure you check out that interview if you missed it. And I was gonna type this, but I'll say I've seen the conversation in chat about the amount of pressures that Charles Cross gave up. I see it from our favorite troll on this, quoting volume stats for a team that passed more than almost any team in football is not a good way to measure quality of somebody's pass protection. So I would not look at number of pressures surrendered as some big tell of whether a left tackle is good or not, by the way. All right, getting back to the case at hand. So Abe Lucas. Abe Lucas is a guy that I can't say has had a true blue chip game yet. I can't even say for sure that he's had blue chip flashes where he's just dominant in the game. I think I have, like, especially his rookie season. Certainly in preseason he has, but that's not what we can look at. I think that he's got that when he's going to be on the field. I think he's got what I believe is a blue chip level of talent. I think he can be one of the best right tackles in football. But the things that have been holding him back, clearly one has been health. It's been the primary thing. And two, is he in the right scheme that takes advantage of his skill sets and meshes well? Does he have the right player next to him that allows him at right guard in order to allow him to focus on his job and not necessarily be covering for a faulty right guard next to him all the time? I think Abe Lucas is a guy that, of the guys in tier 3, maybe the most likely that I would say it wouldn't shock me if by the end of the season we're talking about him as one of the best at his position in the sport. The only thing that might be really in his way is staying on the field. And there's a lot of people that might say, "Oh, it's not going to happen." I don't see that. I think Abe Lucas has worked his tail off to get back on the field, be in really good shape. And sure, anything bad fortune can happen. It's a high injury rate sport. But I think there's every reason to think that he's going to play this season and that he's going to be a very good player for this team. So Abe Lucas, to me, is maybe the highest probability of tier 3 to make the leap all the way there, and would also be one of the biggest impact guys to do it. If he were to become one of the best right tackles in football this year, it would be a huge, huge lift to this overall team. Offense, defense, running game, passing game, all of it, if he was to reach that status. Next guy I've got on this list is Zach Charbonnet. Zach Charbonnet is a guy that has had, I would say, some blue chip games. The Arizona game last year is on that list. I'm still not convinced that Zach Charbonnet has blue chip traits. Like, he is a complete back. I think he's absolutely starting level running back in this league. I'm not sure that he's special in that way where he's going to do things that nobody else in the league can do. That's my biggest question for him, because he's actually had like more production and been available than a guy like Abe Lucas. And over the last year, he's had better games in some ways than Ken Walker has, right? But the question for me with Charbonnet is, how high is the ceiling? Does he really have a blue chip ceiling? And I think the things that I would need to see for him to truly start getting there is to show how his traits translate into plays on the field that are rare, that are hard, like next to impossible for opponents to account for and deal with. That could be in the passing game. That could be in the running, outside, inside. It could be all sorts of things. Sean Alexander was not the toughest runner in the world, but he had excellent vision. And you get him around an end zone, and he always found his way to 6 points. So I don't know what that is, that calling card is for Zach Charbonnet yet. Right now, I think he's more likely to be a very good pro and maybe someone who never reaches even Pro Bowl level. But there is this chance that he's shown that when he gets the opportunity, he's been really productive. And so there might be something there that, at least for me, puts him on this list. The next two guys. Got a few more guys to go over. In tier 3. So I have got Kobe Bryant on this list. Now, you may think that's crazy. Safety position is pretty thin in the NFL. There's not a lot of great safeties. And Kobe Bryant just became a starter mid-year last year and already made an impact, was a ball hawk, has always been a guy that's around the football, forcing fumbles. His rookie year, he tied for the NFL lead with, I think, 4 forced fumbles. He has had interceptions. He has had returns. Like, he is a playmaker. And so my biggest advocacy for Kobe Bryant in this situation is he's going to be in his first full season as a starter. He's already proven to be a playmaker. His skill set clearly has translated to this safety spot better than it did at nickel corner, where he was exposed at times. And so he's going to go into, I talked to him last year in the locker room. He was going to go into this offseason for the first time in his career, knowing what position he was going to play when he comes back to camp. So I think that gives him a really big opportunity to step forward this year. All right. I'm going to speed through the last tier because I also hear my son in the other room, and I'm going to have to go help him out here in a bit. I'm single parenting at the moment, so going to go deal with that. But let's get to the last group. This group, tier 4, are guys that I think they're projections. It's the trajectory might be there. I just personally believe they have that ceiling. And so I'm going to mention them. And they haven't proven it yet, but I'm going to say I think that it wouldn't shock me if these guys got there. The first being Gray Zabel. I think Gray Zabel, he hasn't played a game. He hasn't played a snap in pads. I saw him at the Senior Bowl. I saw him at the Combine. I believe this guy has the potential to become one of the best guards in football. I don't think it's crazy that that could happen in his first year. I think it's unlikely. Elijah Arroyo, another guy that I put on this list. I think he has this capability. I think it's very unlikely he's going to get there this year, but he has some athleticism that could be there. AJ Barner, a guy that I'd put on this list that I see as somebody who had a very quiet rookie year, in the sense that he had 4 touchdown receptions, which was the second most in. Whoa. What just happened? We are changing gears, folks. As I just talked about AJ Barner, Noah Fant has been released. Breaking news for the Seahawks. This is a surprise. This is a surprise. Noah Fant has been released by the Seahawks. I'm going to read right now if there's any additional information. There isn't. I've been talking about this for a while. I think the Seahawks really wanted to try to trade Noah Fant. They end up saving $8.9 million against the cap this year. And I don't think they felt like he was a key part of what they wanted to do. He's not a great blocker. He's an okay receiver. He's not a physical player. And he was going to be in the way of some other guys. So the Seahawks released him because they couldn't find a trade partner. They did not want to go into training camp next week with him taking snaps that would have gone to another player. They want those snaps going to AJ Barner. They want those snaps going to Elijah Arroyo. They want those snaps going to Eric Saubert. They want them going to Nick Callerup, who I told you about. And I will bring up as a visual, just so you guys know I'm not blowing smoke. And as I see this, when I went over my 53-man roster prediction last week, and I talked about the offense, let me make sure I've got the right. I want to share the right thing. Hold on. I was sharing the wrong thing. Let's do this. Okay. I had Noah Fant in a different color than the rest of the tight ends. And the reason I had him as a different color was two things. One, I just didn't believe that they really wanted him on this roster, and I thought they were going to find a way to trade him. I thought that they would do it via trade, and I think they've been really hoping they would get something back. It says a lot about Noah Fant that they could not get anything in return for him. And then two, this battle over here on fullback between Robbie Oots and Brady Russell, I think the loser of that battle is someone that the Seahawks are going to want to keep on the roster because of their special teams capability, especially Brady Russell. If Robbie Oots wins it, I think Brady Russell is going to still be on this roster because of the way he's played special teams. The other player that this really speaks to is Nick Callerup. You will know that name after pads come on. He is a 265-pound undrafted free agent from Minnesota who absolutely looks the part. And while Eric Saubert is the veteran that knows this system and is the more likely bet to make the roster, I will not be shocked if Nick Callerup ends up making this roster. If he shows that he can be a dominant blocking tight end, then I don't know that you really need Eric Saubert to be there. Older veteran player versus younger ascending player. Now, I might be completely wrong. Callerup might just blow it. That's fine. If that's the case, AJ Barner, Elijah Arroyo, and Eric Saubert is a fine trio of tight ends for a team that is going to run a lot of two tight end sets, going to ask their tight ends to block quite a bit. This also really clears the way for Elijah Arroyo to get a lot of snaps as that split tight end that's going to be out in routes more than he's going to be blocking. It clears a lot of space for AJ Barner to get more snaps. But you see that I projected 4 tight ends to make this roster. And if that's still what ends up happening, then I think you could add something like AJ Barner, Elijah Arroyo, either Eric Saubert or Nick Callerup, one or the other, and Brady Russell. I think that is a very likely possibility of how things go for the tight end position. So big move by the Seahawks. Interesting that comes on a Sunday. At least I think the thing that this is nice of the Seahawks to do, it gives Noah Fant a chance to start training camp with a new team. So big deal there. Huge news for the Seahawks. This is pretty unprecedented to basically right before training camp release a fully healthy starter for your player from last year who doesn't have behavior issues or didn't do anything off the field or isn't injured. This is pretty rare. So what this is going to mean, by the way, as I look at over the cap for how much cap space the Seahawks now have, let's do a little bit of quick math here. I am going to cut Noah Fant. Why is it cut pre? It's not letting me cut post. I believe the Seahawks have roughly 37.5 million in cap space now. So they've got a bunch of cap space. Maybe this is a precursor to a trade that they're going to make to acquire a guy like Trey Hendrickson that would cost a lot of money and they want to spend some of that. More likely, maybe it's a precursor to them signing some extensions for players. Kobe Bryant would be a guy I would keep an eye out on. Maybe Charles Cross, maybe some of these other guys. And they're going to take some of that cash and cap and allot it other places. Keep in mind, this isn't just a cap space savings. That's money that they were going to have to spend from a budget perspective this year that now can be reallocated to signing bonuses and other things that they could use to extend other players. So big news that Noah Fant has been cut, released, I guess is the right term at this point. I wish him nothing but the best. I got no issues with Noah Fant. I think this is going to be a great thing for the Seahawks. I think the tight end room is really strong, really young, and it's going to be physical, and it's going to be talented in a way that we just haven't seen in the Seahawks tight end room for a little while. So interesting news to come up there from the Seahawks, helping to give me something to talk about as I was finishing up this show. I am going to have to drop here in just a second. I didn't get a chance to talk about Julian Love. I didn't get a chance to talk about some of the other guys on my list. There was one other guy. Doesn't matter. I'll do it another time. I got plenty of time to catch up with all of you. For folks that have not already, join over at patreon.com/hawkblogger. Gets you ad-free access to ad-free audio version of this show. Also will get you access to the Discord channel, as well as if you're a club level YouTube member, gets you access to the Discord channel. And that gets you verified over at hbtix.com as a verified Seahawks fan. hbtix.com, the best place if you're a Seahawks fan to sell tickets to other Seahawks fans. Protect home field advantage. So get on that. If you're not a club level YouTube member, I highly recommend upgrading to at least that or suite level, because you're going to get access to my player interviews that will start this week before anybody else. So you'll definitely want it. It'll be worth it. You'll appreciate that you have it. All right, folks, I gotta run. Appreciate all of you. Someone wants me to play some guitar. That's a ukulele behind me. My guitar is actually over there. I have been playing it and singing, but I'm not going to torture you with my guitar skills or my singing voice. Although, I like singing and my wife likes my singing. So that's good enough for me. All right, folks, appreciate all of you. And if you haven't given the show a like and click subscribe, great time to do it. Until I see you next time, I'm Brian Nemmeter. This has been another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Take care.